Well, I just heard like, this is gonna come across the wrong way because I forget his name right now, but Bearded Wonder.
Dick Gladden.
Yes. Sharing his thoughts. It's like, oh, that sounds complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So,
anywho.
how should we use our final time together?
I know, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Couple things. I was looking back over the previous process reflections, and there was a line that stuck out to you written about, I think it was like chronically feeling overwhelmed, and I would love to unpack that some,
Okay.
and then I can catch you up on, I guess I did my last process reflection on, I guess in the midst of the processing, versus like it being a past event, and the way this week has been starting to play out in life.
Okay.
So maybe we'll do it backwards, because I think that would probably be the most fruitful path
Okay.
to take. So, having one of those weeks, you know that like your calendar, you know, there's just those weeks that a lot of stuff happens. So Kelly gets baptized Sunday, which is awesome. I get to preach Sunday, also fun. I'm teaching a class for these couple weeks on Revelation and Star Wars. It's our sermon series right now, which is really fun. And we have Pope Theology tomorrow. So like all really fun things. Also a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And Michaela's not in daycare yet, so when I'm not here, I have her. And then I got a call last week, or I texted my mom that said my one uncle, his name was Bill, is not doing well. And we ended up going to visit him in Warrenton on Saturday, and he was in the hospital, and on, at the time, 85% oxygen. Like basically lifelong smoker, and it just, everything crapped out. And so his kids, my cousins, live out in Colorado and Texas and Montana. They're all yonder. And so it was significant enough they all came home, and then he actually ended up passing away yesterday morning. And it's one of those, death in me is weird now when it comes to my family, because one, I feel like we've had enough of it that it's not a shock feeling really anymore. There's sadness, but it's not a uncharted territory in terms of my extended family. And I've spoken about it before that since my dad died, having a death of someone in a relationship that's not that I won't say that not that significant, but not as close to me, it's a weird thing to process from that, because it's like, well, if I've gone through this, then this doesn't feel like that, and somehow that's just different for me. But he had asked my cousin to then ask me, because I'd asked, is there anything we can do, just let me know. He's like, well, he'd like you to do the service. It's Saturday. And I was talking to Katie about it. It's one of those, like, I didn't, if I could have planned my one busy week a month to be the week that got really busy. And then our youth director had to go in the hospital for an appendectomy yesterday. And that was one of those things. We got a message from her in the evening, and I had to class. I was like, oh, if it's significant, let me know, and I'll come back to class. She's like, it's not going to be. It's probably just an antibiotic thing I need to get. And I had 2 missed calls after the class that was like, you should come. And so hanging out with her until her boyfriend came and there was someone else there. But just, I found myself asking God, like, what am I supposed to be learning from this week? Like, what needs to be taken away? And being someone who I know, while I don't think thinking through things is bad in of itself, still trying to find where that nice area of I'm thinking adequately versus overthinking or underthinking. I joked about it that I know part of this week was self-inflicted from my own scheduling, but then there's very much of it that wasn't self-inflicted. And I guess that piece of it mixed with that I just kind of toss away my boundaries for a week to be able to respond to this stuff. And that in a nutshell is what you'll get to read about at some point too. But those are the things I'm still trying to process through while still doing the things that need to get done, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I wish there was a secret that I could give you, a secret technique. You know, I also wish I could tell you, you know, you'll never have another week.
I was
like
going to
this
say,
again.
this will happen again.
But it'll undoubtedly happen again.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is weeks like this that getting through it, I mean, and I think part of it is taking each day as it comes, and the week, and at least it's more helpful for me to break things down a little bit and then say, okay, what do I have to do right now, this moment? What's my step right here?
Yeah.
But you know, you still have in the back of your mind, well, there's Saturday coming, there's Sunday coming, there's Monday coming, there's, you know, all of that's coming.
Perpetual return of things.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're just plain exhausting.
And the other prayer I had was like, God, if and granted, I laugh because these conversations imply that like I don't have a say in this. I was like, I would love to get through this in a healthy way, which I've never actually had the vision to want that during the midst of a week.
So, what are some possibilities for you to do that would enhance your getting through this in a healthy way?
Try not to toss away the self-care stuff during the week. I think will be important. That being said, I haven't done much of it yet, and then I'm also trying to be like, well, you had a baby all day one day and you worked all day the other day, and it just happens sometimes. So doing the self-care, but also finding the time to like carve out that's I'm not working right now, and I'm okay not working, and not feeling like I don't know, and that's where the overwhelmed comment from the one before struck me, because like for whatever reason I don't feel overwhelmed right now. It's like, but I know I've had situations that are not this, like if we can say overwhelming, that I do feel overwhelmed in, and so it's one of those like, well, what the hell is wrong with me?
So, I'm just going to throw this out there. It's just as a theory.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm right. But, you know, as you've talked about being overwhelmed at times, it has seemed to me that it sounds like a chronic condition, dealing with chronic issues, things that just don't go away. And so, you know, there seems to be a chronic level of, and I don't know if overwhelmed is the right word, but at least some chronic anxiety maybe.
Okay.
Living in you about, you know, your mother, your sister, Katie, certain things about the job situation, things that are just not going to get solved or done. But as you have listed the ideas of, or the things that are coming up this week, I noticed that each of them is sort of a task that has an ending. And I know for me that if I can see the ending of it, I don't get as anxious about it.
Sure.
You know, it just means I got to get across that line.
Yeah.
And you know, that's hard enough work. But it's the things that, and a lot of what you've listed are things that you have control over, or at least some level of control over.
And probably fair to say I enjoy most of those things.
And they're fun,
Yeah.
for most of those things, except for maybe the funeral service. But so it would make sense that you would not have the same kind of overwhelmed feeling, or anxious feeling about those things as you would about the things that you have little control over, but affect you kind of day in and day out. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair, because I think it's an interesting way to think about it. That what does tend to be, what makes something overwhelming to me is the fact that I don't see that ending, and at times I don't have a very hopeful outlook on that particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is funny. Now, my sister texted me at 6 o'clock last night asking if we were driving out to Warrenton to be with my aunt and my cousins, and it was just that moment of like, what? Like, why would we do that? And then her response was like, oh, it's okay, and something like that. And I was just like, I don't know if something clicked in that particular case. I'm like, this is just too ridiculous for me to even think about. It's like, we're just moving on. But there are a lot of parts of my relationship with her that I have a very hard time letting go like that. And that would suggest to me that it would be a conversation I had with Doris a couple of days ago was just like hinting at the question of like, what can a new okay look like? Like, if it's not the okay that you want, what can I am at peace with this reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny when those questions come out and they're for somebody else and then they hit you a few days later. But that's probably what I work at doing with my mom and my sister, but don't work in a intentional way at. So like, I want that and want to strive to that. I think we've talked about that before, but I've never really sat down and come up with any kind of guiding principles or anything of how I'll establish that reality.
Mm-hmm.
or the peace with the reality. That would probably be a fruitful thing to do for those situations. And thinking about how, I think it was probably just the night process reflection, but that my feelings mirrored that of someone else there, and if I was identifying with it, just like, I start thinking about this stuff. But the feeling of the loss of control being something that tends to kick in a lot of negative feelings. I don't know, it sounds cliche to be like, just be better at not being in control of things. But maybe it's finding what I can control in the midst of things I don't control. So, we talk about regulating our own feelings. I have control over that. And I think that would be another good thing to try to establish as a principle. Like in anxious situations, my focus and my victory, if you will, be if I can regulate myself in the midst of it, I'll consider that a good day. Whatever the rest of the situation looks like. Because I know there'll be more interactions with someone, well, they won't have the same interactions I have here. I know there'll be people at work that I struggle with from time to time. I forget did I tell you my experience last Sunday with work?
That's when Katie and Michaela came to
That was
worship.
one of them,
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
So, which is a good one.
Right.
But I bring this up because I think it ties into the control of things. The way our order of worship is broken down is basically whoever's not preaching, the other two people split what's left of worship. I make out to be a professional liturgist most Sundays. And my window is generally from, we'll say, the call to worship down to the sermon starting. And then Joanna is the welcome and the stuff after the sermon. and then the preacher does the benediction. So we had new members come in or join, and a new member joined on Sunday, and I am just of the habit of stand up and you say we have someone new to join with us today, woohoo, this person can come down, and then whatever your joining ceremony looks like, whoever has those parts, that just happens after that happens. So it's a total of like 10 words that I am inserting into this particular scenario. And I go to stand up to say it, and Joanna cuts past me and says, mine, and turns her mic on and starts talking. And I talked to Kirk about it, because I was like, we are all really happy that I didn't just bust out laughing. I'm just like, what the heck? This is really happening. And that night we came back for a meeting, and Joanna apologized for something else she had said that morning, where we have a meeting once a month for folks who are interested in joining. And I'm of the habit of, if people let us know Sunday morning, then we'll have the meeting. And Joanna doesn't like that because she lives an hour away, and that makes sense. But there was never there wasn't really a conversation about that other than on a Sunday morning when she was annoyed about it. We have since taken steps this week to fix this situation. But she apologized for being frustrated about that, and I was like, were you also frustrated during last worship service? She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, when you said mine? And she's like, well, that's because you took my spot. And I was like, what? And she's like, the joining thing is my thing, and the last 2 times you've taken that. And I was like, I don't think I know that that was yours, and this was my experience of how it was supposed to work. And she's like, well, I meant to talk to you about it before, but like didn't, and then we, like, it can look different if we want it to, but it was just, I'm just like, I was proud that I didn't say anything stupid, and I was also proud I didn't laugh at her when she was like, I'm not good with words, so I'm just going to be frank, and like was just letting herself have that privilege, which I know I could not take with her. All of that, I know I have seen growth in that I have no control over that reaction that she has. But being able to not, the difference was, this is a Joanna thing that's happening, and I'm over here while it's happening, versus this is Joanna doing this to me, and I'm reacting back to that.
Okay, so if I get you correctly, I understand. The new learning allows you to not take it personally.
Right.
It's just Joanna being Joanna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is still not the ideal situation.
Well, yes, which is something that is problematic, but it's not personally problematic. I mean, it's not directed at you.
It is not because of me per se. And again, I guess it's probably also growth, because I talked to Kirk about it the next day, and what I told him was like, I don't need you to say anything. I don't need you to talk to her, but I feel like it is important for you to know this happened. And that leads me to feel like this is a competition, and I don't think I'm supposed to feel like this is a competition. And I talked to another staff member and was like, did perchance my predecessor feel like there was ever a competition happening? And they was like, yes. I was like, okay, so we have a history of there being some competitive nature. And I was like, Kurt, at some point when it comes up, I'm going to say to all the 3 of us, sometimes I feel like there is a competition going on for time and worship and for what we're doing, and I'm not comfortable with that. So it was like 9 months of CPE, and I can do this once.
Well, congratulations.
But, thank you. And so it's, I say all that because it's cool, because I know that, like, okay, I am actually, like, working with this stuff, and I think it makes a difference. And then taking that with the humility of, like, and there's, we're at 53%. And there's other stuff that's perhaps not in the professional sense. If I've gotten that pond back to being calm again for me, that I can't ignore the other ones now and just be like, look what I did over here. Mm-hmm. Being more intentional about, okay, it took a lot of intentionality to have all of those conversations go the way they did. How do I do that with this other family, this family of origin over here, and live in that better?
Yes, in some ways, I think that stakes are higher with family.
Yeah.
And so that probably builds some extra anxiety into it, maybe some trepidation to, how do I do this? But you know, what would you think would be one small little act or one little question? Maybe a curious question is the best thing to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, being able to say to your mom, yeah, you know, I've had a question I've never really asked you before, but you know, I'm wondering about something in our family,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and maybe you can help me to understand it better. And again, doing it in an innocent kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, you know, I just want to understand this better. You know, if you can help me, that'd be great. If you can't, it's all right too.
Yeah.
But and it invites her to maybe be reflective a little bit, maybe more than she normally is.
Yeah.
And so your one question is affecting both. So, you know, and I don't know what that question looks like for you,
Sure.
but you
Yeah,
know, it could be anything.
as well.
Yeah, but or even you know, asking your sister, you know, I'm just curious about how does it feel for you to now have this diagnosis, and you've had it now for what, 2-3 months? I'm just, you know, has it made a difference for you? Or does it give you anything extra for you to think about, or you know, I'm just wondering how you process all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's just innocent,
Yeah.
and you really don't care whether she tells you or not. But it's just innocent, and
That's the piece.
and
I
that's
have to
the
work on.
that's the piece that you need to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what if she doesn't tell you?
No.
What if she doesn't refuses to answer?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're no better, you're no worse off.
Right. That's true.
Right.
And I've at least that would be modeling. This is how I'm going to live in as if I help us be more separate and equal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you are modeling being separate and asking the question very innocently, and you know, it doesn't matter whether you answered it or not, but it'd be nice if you did.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I would appreciate knowing the answer.
Yeah, but it's okay. You don't have to. But you're modeling the separateness, but also you're modeling how to be separate, but also engaged
Mm-hmm.
and in contact
Versus distant.
versus distant.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I think, like, I think a lot. I get made fun of with my in-laws for that. But, that would be something I could pin a success on with that, even if it wasn't an answer, is the not reacting to, for lack of better words, the crap that sometimes happens with it. Or just like, if Aaron, for example, starts to answer my mom, either not paying attention, not hearing, or just being rude, talks over her, Aaron will just go, never mind. I'm like, well, Aaron, I would really like to hear your answer. No. Okay. And being able to do that without forcing an answer, or
Right.
without
Right.
saying anything back to, maybe saying to my mom, perhaps you should not do that
Yeah.
once is one thing.
Yeah. But you know, or saying, yeah, maybe now's not the time to. But you know, if comes a time where you feel like you can answer that question, I'd still love to hear it.
Yeah. Just leaving the door open.
Yeah.
Um,
so the family work, um, yeah, is yeah, it's small little steps, small little questions, and then observing as you are doing this and exhibiting different behavior, you know, a little more separateness, um, a little more less anxious, a little more emotionally neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then you observe how they respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's, you know, you kind of need to stay in that position, but just, you know, if they seem puzzled, or you know, or if their reaction is to immediately try to shut you down and get you to do something else, yeah, that's information, and it's good information. You know, and then you observe self in that. You know, okay, yeah, okay, I noticed where I was, you know, asking a curious question that my mom didn't want me really to respond to, but she wants me to fix the garage door instead, and I'm not really here to do that. And, you know, how did I manage my own reactivity in that time? You know, how did I resist being pulled into another or an older frame of pattern, a pattern of behavior? So, yeah, I mean, all of that is good information to get.
Yeah.
And once you see yourself behaving in new patterns or enacting new patterns, okay, and then the question is, okay, how consistent can I be at this? Because to kind of vacillate is really probably muddying the waters.
Sure.
So how can I stay consistent in my efforts
Mm-hmm.
to understand my family better, but understand myself better, my own patterns, my own reactivity, and my efforts to be different.
Mm-hmm. Is it? I guess it's kind of a follow-up question. And I know you cannot like totally separate how you are processing something from like your feelings, right?
Correct.
I know that. And is there a way, like, for example, usually when I start to get emotional when it comes to my family, it's in a frustration that I don't find them or don't have them as a source of support most times. It's mostly a drain versus filling up, if you will. Are there ways to manage that reality for me? I know that's a thing, and that won't get fixed. That's here, and still being able to work on processing in those healthy ways. Is that one of those things where, like, I just need to do better about taking the time to name and to claim and process that on my own?
In a sense, yes. You know, it and unfortunately it happened after he died that I was able to come to this conclusion. But, you know, with my relationship with my father, and just feeling like not being able to satisfy him and being very frustrated with that. And then sort of turning that into, rather than me not satisfying him, it became more accusatory of him not giving me what I needed. And so, yeah, you know, those emotions kind of do like this. But it, you know, through my own therapy and through studying Bowen and others, and when I came to the point of saying, or actually Kenton challenged me to think, said, you know, it's one thing to go through life and think about what you didn't have, okay, But he challenged me, can you get to the point of thinking that maybe your father did the best that he possibly could?
Mm.
And, you know, when I think about that, and when I start to get frustrated, or remember, or wish I had,
Yeah.
kind of thing, that, you know, I have to kind of turn that into a mantra in a way, and I said, you know, he did the best that he could, and I'm grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So, you know, being able to look at your family, being able to look at your mother and your sister, you know, you may want a whole lot of different changes in that relationship. And I hope you see some.
Mm-hmm.
But if in the back of your mind you keep open the phrase, they're doing the best that they can.
Mm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And they're doing the best that they can.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful. It was helpful for me.
That would be helpful for me as well. And it's funny as I think about it, because it's a really good mantra, and saying it in the right tone is also a helpful part of that mantra. But I think I'm coming to realize that there are things that, like, as we process them, that while it is legitimate to be in lament for a period of time over something, it's not going to help me if every time, for example, I try that phrase out and say, but they should be able to do better.
Well, maybe they should. And
I guess that could just be the tension, and the reality is, like,
that's
they're
the
doing
reality.
the best they can, and it could be better, but they're doing
Yeah.
the best they can.
Doing the best they can right now. Yeah. And I need to see them for, you know, parents are interesting relationships.
Mm.
Because we want our parents to be perfect.
Mm.
You know, and when
It's really easy when you find out they're not.
yeah, and it is a a mind explosion.
Yeah.
To find out that they aren't, that they make mistakes. That there's some things that they're just not good at.
Mm.
And it's like, you know, but I want you to be good at this. I need you to be, and they just aren't. So, yeah, you know, just that idea of okay, all right, yeah, my mother's doing the best that she can with what she's got.